Well, we're in the middle of a constitutional crisis because the governor simply doesn't want to do his job. He's been told to do his job by a decision of a court that stands. The decision is very clear. It tells the ECP, it directs the ECP to give a date of the elections after consultation with the governor. But because the governor and the ECP are perhaps hand in glove, the ECP is waiting on that consultation to bear fruit, where that's not what the court said. The court said consult with him. Now if he's not going to budge, then the ECP is still directed by the court to give a date, and they're not giving it, so they are in contempt of that decision. And as long as that decision stands and does not get overturned or suspended by a divisional bench of that court, it has the force of law in that province, and it's not being adhered to because there is a grand nefarious design to thwart an election and to deny the people the right to express their will in line with the Constitution. And just as the last time, the grand design is by the few against the many, and for the same reason that people have lost their belief in being supported by the majority of the country, and they seek to thwart it in one way or the other. And it's sad, but we are in the middle of it. We're not waiting for one to begin. We are in the middle of a constitutional crisis. I don't think it's not an article, it's the section of the Elections Act. I don't think that it really is any controversy here. Arif Alvi, who until recently, when his party was in power, had no qualms about uprooting the constitutional scheme and allowing for emergent circumstances to be declared when there was really no emergency, and allowing for ordinances to sail through and signing off of them without thinking twice. He had no qualms dissolving the parliament when it was a clearly an illegal order by the speaker sent to him because it was his own ex-party speaker. But now he suddenly his strength and zeal for defending the constitution as its ceremonial figurehead has come alive. So be it. His opportunism aside, what he's trying to do is something coming from a statutory imperative. But the court has decided. Firstly, the court has decided a constitutional imperative already. And once the court has done what it said the Election Commission should do, there remains no scope for the president to exercise the generality of his powers, the spirit of his oath. So what Arif Alvi has done is, technically, whilst trying to do the right thing for whatever wrong reason, it is technically deficient. And that power that, to my mind, the general election or elections speaks of the general elections to the National Assembly. It does not speak of provincial assembly elections. I don't think the 2007-8 elections, I don't remember right now, but I don't think they missed the constitutional deadline. And I think that the situation back then with Benazir Bhutto dying, it was a different situation, but I don't think even then a constitutional deadline was missed, but you can check that. However, I don't buy it at all. I don't buy it at all. I think in a country where non-combat expenditure has not been reduced by a single rupee, in a country where salaries and perks go up for public servants, not down, in a country where there are 85 odd special assistants or advisors to the Prime Minister, that country can spend 100 odd billion rupees on elections. The elections are the primary imperative of a democracy. There is nothing more important. And this is, in the scheme of Pakistan's issues, it is not that big a cost. And even if it was a big cost, as long as it wasn't unpayable, it must be taken. There is no greater or grander exercise of our democratic process. It must happen. What kind of an excuse is this? And it's a very shoddy excuse for democratic parties, or supposedly or exclusively democratic parties, to hide behind. And as far as terrorism is concerned, that's also a very ugly and convenient excuse. It's ridiculous to say, look, in 2013, when we had elections, it was far, far worse. And just because the people threatened were the ANP and the PPP, nobody bothered. And now there's been granted a terrorist wave is afoot. And it's afoot because of these same problems, that decisions were taken without democratic influence. They were taken outside of the houses of parliament and provincial assemblies. They were taken by people who were drunk on power without having any actual legitimate right to exercise it, who cut deals with people who then reneged on those deals. And it's this democratic deficit that got us here. We can't get out by creating further democratic deficit. As far as the PDM or the PMLN is concerned, in terms of it creating a constitutional, considering this a constitutional grey area, it really isn't. The core of the constitutional article that speaks of appointing caretakers says so after having said you will announce a date for the elections. Now the governor can't hide behind saying it's an action by default and I haven't really done anything, but then go ahead and announce a caretaker setup. So you can't have your cake and eat it too within a constitutional article. And then also, the article says the governor shall announce a date, but in the scheme of the constitution, the governor is a mere post office. So the election commission, as has been told by the lower high court, it is the election commission's job to push for a date within 90 days and tell the governor to simply announce it. And should he not do so, he is violating the constitutional scheme and should be taken out of office for that reason. That is misconduct. And regardless of that, even if he should not be allowed to frustrate the scheme of the constitution in an explicitly stated article, and if he's not listening to the ECP should announce it in any case, as is directed by the Lahore High Court. There's really no room for doubt here.